All right, and welcome back to another hashtag randomly with Ronnie Jr. I always say hashtag randomly with Ronnie Jr. because if you go to YouTube and put that hashtag, you'll be able to see. Dang, I'm getting my words all flubbed already. Anyway, you'll be able to see the hashtag will incorporate everything that I've done on the older archive YouTube channel, which was never really the way that it is now. Where I mean, this was like established back in 2005. But that was when I was working in radio, and we would just kind of upload things to kind of send out to program directors and casting directors and stuff like that. I since have launched it all back and now made it for public, along with everything that we're doing on this channel, which is like a variety of podcasts. So I say go to hashtag randomly with Ronnie Jr., which is the name of this series, and randomly with Ronnie Jr., of course, is the name of the podcast as well. So it's all like congruent in a way. So go type it out on YouTube and you'll see like 500 videos. I only say that because I started YouTube so much later than everyone else because I had already sort of been through my radio journey. I started radio in 2003. And by the time I got to podcasting, I was kind of like, not out of it, but just like ready for a different chapter. So I went to television production, and podcast production. I did a podcast producing for VH1 and a couple other little things. So I never really like anticipated being back to the whole like, I'm going to do this show on YouTube and I'm going to build the audience. So I did it finally because, there was a March of 2020, everything like flipped on its head. And I was like, oh my gosh, I need to like get in on this or whatever. And so I started it. But then what I realized is the people that were starting so much later in their career, they had so much content out there. And I used to think that it was all based on like, make the best content. Even like when I do episodes from today and this point forward, I would rather spend like 2 to 3 hours preparing for them and making them look really tight and neat and everything. But the way things go now, especially in the pop culture landscape of like podcasts, you just gotta go. Keep on going. So this is just kind of like where I'm at in terms of the creative process. But I do what I can do. I love this pop culture stuff more than anybody, but I also try to do it when it makes sense for me. So, it's great that people could do their shows like daily or whatever. Mine is more about, you're not going to get like a entertainment news story and I'm going to jump into it right away without the details and just talk about nothing. I'm one that likes to like wait, watch the whole thing develop, give my point of view, give my perspective, and then we go from there, which is why we're talking about today the Real Housewives of Dubai, and just kind of getting a viewpoint of what everyone thought of it. The Real Housewives of Dubai was a franchise that kind of came out of nowhere. I think a lot of people were speculating they had really followed Caroline Stanbury from the Ladies of London show. I think she was living in LA prior to Dubai. I'm not really sure. Her YouTube channel does really well. So people were excited about it, but there was a lot of controversy around it in terms of some of the things that happen in Dubai that aren't as humanitarian as you would, just the complicated nature of where they were at. So there were a handful of people who were like, I'm not going to watch it at all. I watched it. I felt like I got educated towards what is and what isn't. And the things that are controversial, I still have my soft spot in my heart for those things. And it's definitely something we should always watch out for and look out for. But I think they managed to do the show in a way that still made sense. And I think they casted it really well also. So with all that being said, I did watch and I did enjoy. And so I didn't do a weekly episode recap. The last episode recap I did was for Peacock Network, had the what is it called? Real Housewives Ultimate Girls Trip at Dorinda Medley's Bluestone Manor. I had fun doing that week by week by week. But sometimes with these shows, the storylines are so, they carry on. And so week by week by week episodes for every franchise doesn't really work for me. But coming back or even doing like a trailer reaction, that I like. I enjoy that very much. So for something like this, looking back at the whole season, we've already seen the I guess it was only two reunions, which by the way, that's all they need. why do we have 4-part reunions? It doesn't make no sense. I'd rather see the footage from the show and extend the show 2 more episodes. Like if the whole thing is a 14 season order, give me 12 great episodes and give me 2 reunions. Or you could even do like 1 best of, or what do they call it? Stuff from the cutting room floor. Like I'm fine with the whole thing. But I don't need 4 reunions. But anyways, I want to react to it a little bit, the whole season. I guess we could go like cast member by cast member and like things that stood out throughout the season. We could talk about fan reactions and even like other Housewives reactions. Of course, on the Reasonably Shady podcast with Giselle and Robin, and they were talking to Carlos King, there was a reaction there. Lisa Rinna had a reaction, not a favorable one in terms of what she said, but like there was kind of a reaction with this show. It seemed like people were going to try to not watch it, but it became something of a water cooler conversation, and not in the way of tweets that we're used to. Anyways, let me tell you what I think about it. And again, I'm not negating the controversies behind it. I'm giving my viewpoint, acknowledging that, and then moving on and flipping it on and saying, oh, this is interesting. And these cast members are interesting. And I've never been to Dubai. So I kind of looked at it through that lens. And I also thought about like, do they have filming limitations? There was a lot to it, but let's go. Again, great cast in general. And I love a season that has everyone who kind of complements each other, be it razzing each other or loving on each other, no matter what it is. If you're like a good friend, I mean, obviously Chanel Ayan and Lisa were really good friends, or I guess they were probably the tightest. And or if it's like that complicated, like we want to be friends, but we end up being really frustrated with each other, such as like a Caroline Brooks with Ayan, and also a little bit with Lisa too. Whatever the complicated or good or easy friendships, I liked the way it went in terms of an ensemble. I think unfortunately with these shows, everybody needs to kind of come out and try to be the queen. And I think luckily I didn't really, I mean, obviously Chanel Ayan was probably the one who, like, I don't want to say pitched herself to be that character, but she came out really, really strong. You know, Chanel Ayan was okay. Well, you know what? Let me stop from Chanel in a second. I want to mention something first. I'm going to mention to you my 2 favorite cast members, and I love a season across all the franchises. I've always loved a season that has cast members that are like my favorites, but aren't necessarily on the same side. You know, because it gets a little daunting if you happen to like 2 people, but they're like the besties, and every episode they're against these other 2. Like that it kind of feels repetitive, doesn't it? So famously, you know, not that they even have beef on camera, but I just don't think they like each other. I love Melissa Gorga on Real Housewives of New Jersey, but I also love Dolores. I don't think that Dolores and Melissa get along pretty much ever. And again, not based on what we see on the TV, but just in real life. I don't think they like each other, but I like them both so much. So I like a season that has cast members that are my favorites, but that are not necessarily in alignment. It doesn't mean they're arguing. It just means they're not in alignment. You know, I think people have had a little daunting, you know, ways of what they feel of Beverly Hills, because they feel like it's just like this group versus that group, and this group is large and this group is a little smaller, and that does get repetitive. And I'm not even talking about Beverly Hills, because that's like what I always call overrated. I know it's supposed to be the crown jewel, etc., but you know, I've always said a show that has Kyle in the lead spot will never be a good show. But I like it and I watch it, and you know, I'll take a chill pill. It's not the end of the day, end of the world. But it's like, whoa, the way people react as if this is like the Allstars, you know, when clearly like Potomac, even New York in its day, and Jersey, those were all the really good ones. And quite honestly, I never have a shortage of talking about this. Miami might be one of the best ones moving right now. Like Miami, and I know. I know you could think, well, Miami was on Peacock Network, so it was a streaming, so it was like a little different way to view, and maybe it was, you know, unexpected, and if it would have been on Bravo, would it have done as well? You know, it got canceled all those years ago, but it got canceled because that was a stupid move, you know. I mean, again, the ratings may not have been great, but that's because I don't think Joanna Krupa carried the weight. Adriana was insanely boring for the show, season 1, season 2, and season 3, and season 4. So these are just some miscast people. Nonetheless, it came back for season 4, and the Queen, Larsa Pippen, and Lisa and Larsa and Gertie. I mean, it was just very good. We did miss Leah, but Leah Black. But I just don't. Is she coming back? Are we going to see little bits of her? Is it even worth it for her? Anyways, Housewives of Miami is like the real crown jewel, if you ask me. Potomac I like a lot too, but like we gotta stop on the Giselle Bryant can't dress. Like it's such a recycled joke. And then Karen of all people, you're gonna be making that comment. But okay. And Giselle's always and will always be the queen of that show. I mean, that's anyways. I'll reserve my Potomac conversations for later. And you know, I've told you before. I have interviewed Giselle, so you're probably like, oh, well, if you've interviewed her, like that's why you have a bias for her. Not really. She's just like me. She came in, she said I did great, etc., but she's not like spending time groveling over the interviewer. A lot of these housewives do that because they want the bloggers and the people to go on and tweet. Giselle don't care. She's like, where's the money? I'm going to the money. Giselle doesn't waste her time doing anything but getting to the money. And yes, her fashion choices could be a little different, but when you that fly and you walk in a room and everyone's looking like and she's the baddie of the season, like who cares what you wear? You know what I mean? Like you're even more lame if you're. I know I got to get to Dubai, but this is just a tangent. You're even more lame if you are counting on labels to make you like the hot, fashionable one. Giselle's like, look at me. I'm gorgeous. Let's go. You got to love Giselle. If you're on my channel, you have to enjoy Giselle. That's just what it's going to be. I hope like the effect that Kenya Moore, another of my favorites, went on Ultimate Girls Trip and people kind of finally started to see, wow, she's really lovable. I want people to say that with Giselle Bryant too. But again, interviewed her, loved her. She's the star of the show. Karen will never be. I could go on a whole breakdown of why Karen, though she appears in the lead spot, the tacky way she did that. You've seen it each season. When anyone had an issue with Giselle, she'd go not to her friend's side, Giselle. She'd go to the other person's side and be their confidant and supporter. And I want to make this a sisterhood. Karen has been working hard to be as successful as she is, if she is successful. Whereas Giselle's like, I show up, I film, I go to bed, bye, leave me alone. And that's kind of how I do things too, sometimes. Anyways, I don't know how that tangent started. Oh, I was saying whenever two people on a season don't get along, or not don't get along, but aren't like besties, I think it makes for, and they're my favorites, like my personal choice of favorites, it makes for a really good season. So, all right, drum roll. I don't know if you would guess this. Maybe, I mean, just based on, my style of who I like cast-wise. These were my two favorite cast members on the season. Okay, so I'll choose it right here. It is Lisa and Sarah. I know a lot of people want to make a big to-do about Chanel Ayan, but Lisa throughout the season, I don't know that I loved her in the reunion. Something changed, something very aware of the cameras. But again, she was also already on the cameras because she did a reality show years ago. Something just felt like, I don't know, her and Caroline Stansberry, which I think was just boring in general that they even had a beef, but like even on the show, let alone like the reunion time. Or something was not as charming as she used to be in those confessionals. Remember when she had the confessional, she was like dripping in pink everywhere. Like the fact that she so nonchalantly had that confessional. I remember watching the show and saying, "Oh, like Lisa is it." So I really thought highly of Lisa throughout the season. So we'll focus on that. But I don't know that I loved her in the reunion. Can't put my finger on what it is. Maybe it was just like the her and Chanel show. I really don't know what it is. Her and Nina, like I can't call it, but during the season, we're going off during the season at this point. I loved Lisa so much. Her cute family. They had the goat. They they put the ice in the water. Like it all felt fun. We had some really cool conversations with her husband and, her clothing line, the maternity line. And, you have that little back and forth between the husband and what not could, but like, what should we spend or no, yes. And I thought that was really good. I thought she like represented family in a really, really good way. As for Sarah, she was just different and unique, and she was stoic, and she was like, yeah, we got to just work hard to be perfection. The way that they turned it and these were just opinions, but the way that they turned it around and made it as if she was like full of herself, I just feel like sometimes we miss it, where we make confidence appear as if you're full of yourself, as if you're like, why can't we just be confident? Why can't Sarah be like, I've been through some stuff. This is how I maintained and maneuvered, and I like myself. Isn't the goal to like ourselves? Did you like Sarah as much as I did? Apparently I'm thirsty. There was just something so great about Sarah. She needed to be on the show. She wasn't as loud as the rest of them. Remember, she took the bunk when everyone was trying to fight over the room. But she did have a little bit of a confidence, which I loved. She was assertive. She said her opinion. I'll talk about her and Caroline Brooks in a minute, which was probably the one storyline that felt a little too repetitive for me. I was like, Caroline Brooks, you guys were talking about the boarding school. You were talking about raising kids. It wasn't like Sarah just like overstepped, in my opinion. But that might have been the one part of the season that I was a little just like tired of, But just in general, Sarah as a person, I really liked. And I also liked that when they did the intro, I think Nina doing the intro? And she's like, oh, well, this one knows this one, and this one knows this one, and this one used to be friends with this one, and now doesn't like this one. Oh, and that's Sarah. She's our new friend. There was something about Sarah just being not in the mix of the women, but like learning them too, which I really liked. I've said this before, I kind of wish we would have gotten more Nina. I don't know why we didn't. She was in it a lot, but like, I just felt like there's so much. It could have been an editing situation. Not that they were trying to edit her out or anything, but just within a 40-minute show each week, like her stuff didn't rise to the top, which if they did a best of or whatever, or bloopers or on the cutting room floor kind of episode, Nina could have been great. And I like Nina. Her lifestyle is aspirational for sure. I mean, she probably has she has probably the most. Does she have the most money in this group? And again, I don't ever like dwell on like the money part, because if you have the money, great. But I never like a cast member who like, that's their only thing. Like, I have the money, but I'm boring. It's like, great, you have money and you can't construct a sentence. Like, some people kind of live off that money thing on some of these other franchises. So to me, what's her name? Nina. Look at, I forgot her name. Nina, like she is equally as posh as she is rich, and I like that. I guess I should talk real quickly. Oh, but just going back to what I was saying. Yeah, for what it is, I don't know what to tell you. Lisa and Sarah were my favorite of the cast members, and they really significantly made this season a better watch. And I don't think they really even talk to each other. I don't know their friendship, et cetera, but like, just having them on the show each week made sense. I hope the entire ensemble comes back. Maybe bring another cast member, but I really feel like it's kind of a good group right now. Maybe Phaedra. Like, I really don't care, but I don't want it to be like, oh, well, Sarah was more boring, let's take her out. No, you leave Sarah in there, because she always has something to say. She always has a viewpoint. Let's talk about Chanel Ayan. So I really learned to love Chanel throughout the end of the season, middle and end. It was just some of those first episodes, and that was the critique that I think Reasonably Shady, Giselle Bryant, and Robin's podcast with Carlos King, was that she just was too over the top at the beginning. There's just, it's just too much when it's like, I'm going to the restroom and I'm wearing, jewels and a dress that's well over, I don't know. I don't even know what's a lot of money for these women, but it just didn't look normal. It didn't look like a human, and it became a character for sure at the beginning. But Chanel did really well on Watch What Happens Live, and you see a lot of cast members go on Watch What Happens Live, and they do so good with the edit, because the edit usually, as soon as the joke is done, boom, cue music, or boom, cue new clip. Like, it's kind of got a beat and a rhythm. It makes people seem really funny when they are not. And I was really kind of like, okay, Chanel Ayan in real life does have star power, and she loves Kenya Moore. So already you're going to win points as far as I'm concerned. And Chanel is she just really gave us a lot towards the end of the season. And, maybe it wasn't what she projected, predicted. Maybe she wanted to be more the fabulous woman, and this is like the only thing she really talks about. But we kind of got tired of that as viewers. All the stuff that was true to her real life and the stuff she's overcame, and even her softness and her duality with her friendships with the women, both Caroline Stansberry and Caroline Brooks, was probably, to me, the funner part of the watch. Like, that's where I was like, okay, I really like this girl. And it did help that she was Lisa's best friend, because again, Lisa during the season, and I said it a second ago, I'm not saying in the reunion Lisa was horrible. I'm just saying, like, maybe some extra awareness of her being the it girl of the season, and she was trying to live up to that expectation. Something felt a little more forced than it did throughout the season for Lisa. But that's not a bad critique. I think she is she really would probably be the biggest all-star on the show. Though I like Sarah too, I don't think people look at Sarah as an all-star, So Lisa and Chanel, and honestly, we'll get to some of the other ones in a minute. Actually, let me pull this up real quick. And we'll just like look at some of the cast members here. I do think that I did not see it coming, like, at all. But Caroline Brooks. Yeah. Caroline Brooks, to me, really began to shine on the show. The parts that I didn't really love of hers were it wasn't like, you can have an opinion. Don't tell me how to raise my son. Sure. Even though I don't personally think that's what Sarah was doing. But the fact that it lasted like 3 episodes and she had her friends from Massachusetts there and she like hated on them too. Again, made sense. She was passionate. I get that. But what I'm saying, as far as us, the viewers, like the network or whoever makes the edits on these, like, it's just too many episodes of her being mad at the same thing. I would have wanted and needed the conversation with her and her mother a little earlier on, because the one simple thing that she was getting mad at was from the situations that she reflected upon, and no better person to talk to about with those things than with her mom. And so it just felt like that would have been the smarter move. But then when it was like her versus Sarah for a long time, and they had Sarah left when they went to go get Ethiopian food with Chanel, like, it just was getting a little too busy for me. And also disrespectful to the restaurant, so that was the only thing that I was just like too much with Caroline Brooks. That was the only thing. But as the season went on, Caroline, and it wasn't a long season, Caroline Brooks really became a great narrator, and she always was, but really did that. And she also did very well with being in the scene and kind of like asking the right questions. And, I grew to like her quite a bit. I mean, say what you'll say, but when she had the crown at the reunion, it kind of felt like it was the Brooks show, really. Whereas the whole season, to me, it was all about Lisa. Caroline Stansberry was a lot about her too, although she sort of had a little bit of a lesser performance than we maybe expected, and it was a lot of Chanel Ayan. And to me, it was a lot of Sarah. I don't know if Sarah really dominated, but actually I think she does, because I was seeing some of the bloggers or what do you call it, meme creators, like on Instagram and stuff, and a lot of them really take such an easy punching bag to make Sarah like this boring person. But most of the times I would look at those that would, when people would post something about Sarah sort of unfavorably, sort of funny, but sort of unfavorable, I'd go in the comments just to look, because I was like, hey, I like Sarah, and a lot of people liked Sarah. She was a certain power balance between the group. And maybe there is something where they need to look at her and find some hypocrisy season 2. Maybe she's like, because it sounded like they were saying she's presenting as this person that's not actually who she is. Now, if that comes out next season, maybe I wouldn't like her as much, but I was like loving her stoic energy. Like she always had something to say. She loved herself dearly. I thought that was great. If you too can make positive changes in your life, just follow as I do. Like, she was it. She was so dope with that. Like, I don't know. I didn't see her as boring. And again, the people that aren't that boring sometimes are the caricature types, or the ones that are just like silly on a TV show. Sarah was never silly. Anyways, I guess we can move on from Sarah. I'm just saying the entire cast really was a really good group. But no, Sarah was definitely a favorite of mine throughout the entire season, really. And I just spoke about her, in length. But yeah, I would high praises for her. Let's talk about actually Caroline Stansbury. So this was like the one that was like the big letdown, I guess, because she was, coming with the only namesake in terms of the celebrity of Bravo celebrity, and she really didn't live up to a lot of those expectations. So what do you think that it was? Do you think that it was Sergio, the husband, being too on hand? But I didn't really not like him. Obviously I'm glad they really got on him about his past tweets and stuff, because that was definitely necessary. But I'm trying to only, I mean, very bad situation, but I'm trying to only go off of Caroline, really, and then like her relationship to Sergio, and how he was on the show. Was he too much? Sure, but we've had like the Peter Thomas types before. Like, people, some of the men are always in the mix. Joe Gorga. I love the Gorgas, but I gotta say, isn't he like the only one that gets like a good paycheck for this versus all the other guys? It's just more like their time. So Sergio was good, but what it did not so great is it made Caroline Stansbury never want to interact with anyone, because her comfort zone was this guy that idolized her. And of course they're getting married, and that becomes a storyline too. Ultimately I didn't have too big of a problem with it. And I do love that Caroline Brooks, who likes Stansbury, made it known that when you cried, it's a lot different of an experience than when Chanel Ayan cries. And the thing is, you don't know that. You've never known that, but it's important for you to now know that. And I thought that was, again, these are the moments where I was like, Brooks at the beginning, I'm like, what? But Brooks in the middle to the end, I was just like loving the way she inserted herself and was assertive, inserted herself and was assertive, and said what needed to be said. So to me, those were some really fantastic, moments, and it made. Let me remove this photo here. It made the series feel like they were still getting along, meeting with each other, and trying to build strong relationships, trying to repair other relationships. Lisa and Nina seem to have an issue, and I think they can maybe work through it. But I don't know. It was a fun season. I know that a lot of people were kind of abstaining from watching it based on the controversies. There was a couple episodes, or an episode in there, where they had, I guess someone brought some of their gay friends, and it was brought to the issue of, well, here in Dubai, this is what could happen, and this couldn't, this doesn't happen, and this is what you should know, et cetera, and it's maybe a little more loose than you thought, and accepting, but at the same time, you can't do this. So I'm glad they addressed that, because the huge population of audience members too, so many of them are of course gay men who watch this show. I mean, I watch this show, I love it. And I really needed to know and wanted to know more about Dubai. You know what I mean? In terms of a vacation is one thing, but in terms of living there, and I thought that was done really well, and it gives a little bit of context. It doesn't say that everything's right, but it made it. I'm glad it was brought up. It was definitely very necessary. But that is all I got for Housewives of Dubai. My takeaways are, we'll talk about the wedding. Stansbury, I'm sorry, like, I don't think Chanel Ayan upstaged you. Well, she may have upstaged you, but she didn't try to upstage you. You tell everyone to wear white. It's not even your wedding day. It's just more of a shower, or was it a bachelorette party? Whatever it was, I don't want to say you put everyone in a situation, but everyone else kind of is more subdued with their dressing. Ayan is very big, and that's what we love about her. She fawns and adores herself. It's great, but I don't think she intentionally, like, just because the hair and the dress you felt like was a wedding dress. No, it was a white party. You told everyone to dress in white, and they obliged. I can't help it if Chanel Ayan is just the center of attention. That's the one thing that I'm like, Stansberry, you don't really have a say-so in that. You kind of make it worse by making it a big deal. There was other great points throughout the season too, but I don't know. I just think it's a good group of girls. All of them have such potential. I would love for every single one of them to come back. I don't even think we necessarily need Phaedra Parks to jump in. Her being friends with Caroline Brooks. But we will see. There's always another cast member to be thrown into the fold. They always do that. But I think this is a very strong, assertive group. And they proved with a couple episodes, it wasn't a long season, but they proved that they, they are interesting, can be interesting, and maybe they'll get a second season. They should get a second season. And that it's a good watch. I know lots of people who didn't watch it. And not even for the issues standpoint, but they just didn't think, I don't want to watch this. I'm happy I did. I'm happy I watched it. I'm happy I became such a fan of Sarah's, such a fan of Lisa's, and also got to learn a lot about Dubai in general. And it's always really cool to see, like, in the 80s where they were at and now where they're at in terms of, these high rises and freeways, and they've like created a whole city in just that amount of time. It's astonishing. Number one cast member definitely is Lisa and Sarah. I kind of divide that. The one that I would say needs to maybe step it up in a loving way is probably Nina, because I like Nina so much. And I'm just like, I need more Nina. That doesn't mean arguing Nina. I just need more. Like, I want to know more what's going on in her mind. Like the whole, like, oh, we got this gigantic house, biggest house ever, in the most fabulous location ever, but we don't know really much about her. I'm ready to learn more about her. I'm ready to learn more about her marriage. Like, is this her first marriage? Like, stuff, just everything. I want to know it all. But I mean, putting them up to like a Dallas, Dallas was so boring. Putting them up to like these OC seasons, so boring. I think the Dubai cast is interesting. I believe that is it for now. So we'll take off in terms of the show here. But make sure, again, hashtag randomly with Ronnie Jr. if you want to see all the other videos, or just randomlyronniejr.com, and that will go to all the videos that we've done for a really long time. Took a little hiatus, and now we are back. That's why my eyes are so tired. But I wanted to get this episode out. I wanted to get it out, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, comment, like, subscribe, share. And if you're a cast member watching, like Caroline Brooks, I always have the feeling that I'm talking to Caroline. Hi, Caroline Brooks. How are you? You really did rise this season. I wasn't really the biggest fan of the Sarah thing. I mean, I was a big fan of you supporting the whole, don't you tell me how to raise my kid, but I don't think that Sarah was really pushing like that. But, it's welcome to be sensitive, because in a good way, sensitivity, because you've got to, you are, like you were stating, the protector. I guess I don't know how much her son does see the dad. Either way, justified. Just didn't enjoy it as much. But when that kind of rolled out and we were kind of through with that, oh man, that Caroline Brooks, she really stepped it up. So no one's really an all-star here. Again, Lisa, Sarah, probably my favorites, but Caroline Brooks, I mean, you were out of your mind if you don't think she's really good at what she does. Quality entertainment, and that's it. All right, that's the end of the episode, and I've been doing my best to try to get into a couple more episodes. So make sure you go onto the YouTube, like I said, because there's so many Housewives related content and Bravo series in terms of the recaps. But I gotta go.
Hey, Ronnie Jr.